I'd been sleeping in my taxi for 3 months when the passenger who changed my life slid into the back seat and said nothing at all. Dawn was still blue around the edges, the kind of cold, damp morning that sticks to your bones. I'd washed up at a truck stop an hour earlier, the kind of shower where the water smells like iron and the mirrors cracked across the corner. Gas station coffee burned a line down my throat as I idled at the airport queue, watching planes rise like silver needles through low clouds, stitching together other people's lives. Not mine. Mine was a thread that had slipped the needle. The Crown Vic was 20 years old and wore its history on the paint. Yellow turned to old mustard, black scrapes like fingerprints where the city had grabbed me too hard. The passenger seat was duct-taped, and the heater yelped when I cranked it. But the engine still had that stubborn cop car heart, and when I turned the key, something in it always said, "Okay, one more time." Dispatch chirped, "Pick up at the downtown Marriott." I pulled out, the meter blinking the life, the wipers pushing mist back and forth. The Marriott was the kind of place I used to stay for work, back when my emails got answered, back when I wore shirts that held a crease. A valet looked through me like fog as I rolled to the curb. He was waiting there. Mid-40s, good suit, leather briefcase with edges that said it had been carried by someone who believed in tomorrows. He moved like the world had always made room for him. "Airport?" I asked, flipping the switch. He hesitated, thumb hovering over his phone. "Change of plans," he said. 1500 Market Street, please." "Got it." I checked the rear view to ease into traffic, and that's the exact instant life kinked sideways. He leaned forward to buckle his belt, and our eyes met in the mirror. His face drained a color. "My God, I'm sorry, this is going to sound insane, but you look exactly like my brother." People say that sometimes. I have one of those medium faces that fit a lot of memories. Happens. I get you look familiar more than I get tips. "No," he said, "not familiar. Exact. Except older." The light turned green. I didn't move. Horns started speaking fluent city behind us. "Everything okay back there?" I asked. He swallowed, glanced at my eyes in the mirror like he was counting something only he could see. "What's your name?" "Ezra." "Ezra..." He waited. "Just Ezra," I said, and the words fell between us like an old coin. No last name. I don't usually say it that way. I usually joke. I say my last name got repossessed when the bank took the house. I keep it light because the real answer turns rooms cold, but his voice had reached somewhere that doesn't respond to jokes. "You don't know your last name," he said, not a question. "No." How is that possible?" "Head injury," I said. 25 years ago. Wiped out everything before that day. Hospital called me John Doe. I picked Ezra when they released me. Sounded right. He stared, like people do when they're trying to make a puzzle piece fit a space it has no business fitting until you turn it, and suddenly it slides in. "How old were you?" 17. That's what the doctors figured. I aimed us down Market, city waking up around us, steam rising from grates, a man hosing yesterday off the sidewalk, the metallic whine of a bus braking too hard. 25 years, he said softly. My brother disappeared 25 years ago. He was 17. A little current ran up my arms. The cab felt smaller. "That's a coincidence," I said, too quickly. He nodded, but his eyes didn't agree. "Where was your accident?" "Highway out by mile marker 112, about 50 miles east." He exhaled so sharply it sounded like a laugh strangled halfway out. "That's the highway my brother was supposed to take. He never made it." Silence widened. The meter ticked. I could hear the soft rattle in my dash that I keep meaning to fix, an old pen rolling in a cavity behind the glove box, tapping with every pothole. It sounded like a clock. "Look," I said, easing over to the curb, "I don't want to waste your time. If this is making you uncomfortable, I can call you another cab."
He leaned forward, voice lower now, careful like he didn't want to spook a skittish horse. "I'm sorry. I'm Logan." "Logan?" I repeated. "Logan Westfield?" He swallowed again. "My brother's name was Ezra." The city went silent. I know it didn't. Cars still honked, a siren wove somewhere 3 blocks away, but something inside me shut off, like a breaker flipped. I turned and looked at him, really looked at him. The jawline, the way one eyebrow sits higher when he's holding complicated thoughts. I didn't know any of this about him, but my body did. Memory isn't only what you can tell. Sometimes it's what your bones recognize. That's not, I couldn't find the word. Possible? Reasonable? Safe? Lots of people aren't named Ezra, I finished lamely, even though I knew that's not true. We're not a Michaels and Jasons kind of club. He took out his phone with shaking hands and scrolled, then angled the screen forward. A photo. 90s hair. 2 boys in the backyard of a house that looked like it smelled of clean laundry and lemonade, the kind of house in neighborhood brochures. One boy maybe 19, one 17. The younger one grinning too wide for the camera, a dimple denting his left cheek. My face looked back at me from another century. I didn't realize I had grabbed the phone until my knuckles went white around it. The younger boy's eyes were mine. Not close, not "you could be cousins." Mine. The sensation was dizzying, like catching your reflection in a strange window and not recognizing yourself for a second. "You see it," Logan said. "I see something," I said. I could hear my pulse behind my ears. "But people can look alike. That doesn't mean—" "You said the hospital called you John Doe. Did anyone come for you? Did the police connect you to a missing person?" I laughed. It came out like a cough. Different county, different day, different newspaper. I was a runaway or a ghost, depending on who was telling the story. They patched me, stamped me with a number, gave me a list of shelters, and wished me luck. I could feel him collecting himself. When he spoke, his voice had a steadiness I envied. "There's a way to know. DNA. No folklore, no guesses." The word family didn't touch air, but we both heard it. I looked down at my hands. They were calloused from years of construction and cracked from months of winter steering wheel. They did not look like hands that belonged to any kind of family. I remembered the last 6 months in a handful of images. A foreclosure letter peeled open with a butter knife. My wife, Jessica, pacing our kitchen with that high, bright anger that means you're terrified. Ella's strawberry shampoo when I hugged her in a parking lot goodbye. Ricky's fist full of rocks. The studio apartment that smelled of cigarettes. The manager who asked if I could make myself scarce when I fell behind on rent. The first night in the car, and how the dome light made the cab feel like a stage where I had to pretend this was temporary. "Why'd you pick a cab today?" I asked, to give myself a second to breathe. A guy like him doesn't usually choose duct tape over black car service. My rideshare app wouldn't load. The phone was glitching. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. So that's what it took. A glitch. A woman pushing a stroller passed close to the cab. The baby looked at me with the solemn curiosity of babies, then laughed for no reason, the way babies do. My chest hurt. "Are you He started, stopped, started again. Are you okay? I mean, do you have where to stay? It was the kind of question that makes dignity look for its coat and head for the door. I could lie. I could say I had a place. I could say I was between leases. I could say anything that would keep me from saying the one true thing. I'm fine, I said automatically, then heard the hollowness of it and tried again. I'm between things. Between roof and sky, he said softly, and one corner of his mouth twitched, like he wished he hadn't said it out loud. I stared through the windshield. A bus pulled up ahead and exhaled a cloud of cold breath. 3 months. It's okay. It's just for now. Ezra, and my name and his voice hit me in a place I didn't know was still wired. If you'll let me, I'll help, brother or not. But if you are, then it's not help, it's home. Something inside me tilted toward him, against reason. Not trust exactly. Recognition. The feeling you get when you smell a cake you've only ever dreamed about and know, without proof, that you've had it before.
He set the phone on the seat beside him and spoke like he was afraid I might bolt. There's a clinic. We can go now. Swab, paperwork, a few days, and we know. I looked at the meter, still running. I looked at the street, still moving. I looked at the man in my rearview mirror who had arrived today as a fare and was now the axis upon which everything turned. Okay, I said. My voice sounded like it came from the bottom of a well. Let's find out who I am. He exhaled. Thank you. I pulled back into traffic. My hands were steady, but everything else shook. We rode in silence for a block. At the next light, he cleared his throat. There's something else, he said, like the ground needed one more shake. I don't know if this will help, but my brother had a crescent-shaped mark on his left shoulder blade. Mom used to say it looked like a moon. I didn't let the car drift. I didn't say anything. I only felt my hand, without my permission, reach up and touch a scar on my left shoulder that I've touched 1,000 times without ever knowing why. The light turned green. I drove. The next morning, I woke up in a real bed for the first time in months. Clean sheets, warm air, a pillow that didn't smell like engine oil. For a few seconds, I didn't remember where I was. Then I saw the key card on the nightstand, Marriott guest, and it all came back. Logan had insisted on getting me a hotel room. Just until we know, he'd said. I argued, of course. Pride is the last thing you cling to when everything else is gone. But when he slid the room key across the counter, his eyes looked so certain, so relieved, that I didn't have the strength to refuse. Now sunlight filtered through the blinds, cutting lines across the carpet. For the first time in years, I wasn't waking up in the driver's seat of my own defeat. I sat up slowly, stretched, and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. Hollow cheeks, unshaven jaw, eyes that looked older than they should. And yet, there was something unfamiliar in the reflection. Something lighter. Maybe it was hope. Logan picked me up at 10 sharp in the silver rental car that probably cost more than my entire taxi. His suit jacket was gone, replaced by a soft gray sweater, less corporate, more brotherly. You sleep okay? He asked. Like a dead man. Then I winced. Sorry, bad phrasing. He smiled, the same lopsided smile I'd seen in that photo. It's okay. I'm just glad you slept. We drove to a small clinic that specialized in DNA testing. The waiting room smelled like disinfectant and fresh printer paper. A nurse swabbed our cheeks, labeled 2 vials, and handed us a receipt. Results in 3 to 5 business days, she said brightly, as if she hadn't just handed us the answer to 25 years of silence.
Outside, the morning had turned gray again, the sky low and heavy. So what are we doing till then? I asked. We start from the beginning, Logan said. Come on, there's something I want to show you. His apartment was one of those renovated warehouse lofts downtown. High ceilings, exposed brick, polished wood floors that reflected city light. It was beautiful, but impersonal, like a life built from catalog pages. You've done well for yourself, I said, meaning it. I got lucky, he replied, though I could tell luck had very little to do with it. Started a software company out of college, sold it 5 years ago. He looked at me. If you're my brother, half of it's yours. I nearly laughed. That's not how it works. It is if it's our parents' money, he said quietly. They left us equal shares. I kept your half in trust in case... His voice broke for just a second. In case you came back. I didn't know what to do with that. For 25 years I'd been a man without a past, and suddenly someone was handing me one neatly folded and waiting. Let's focus on proof first, I said gently. Then we talk about the rest. He nodded, motioning me toward a heavy gray filing cabinet in the corner. This is my search for you, he said. Every lead, every report, every dead end. Inside were folders, hundreds of them, meticulously labeled. Police reports, private investigators, hospitals, John Does. He opened one at random, an old newspaper clipping, yellowed around the edges. Local teen missing, police seek leads. Mom and Dad, he said softly, tapping the photo of a worried couple beside the headline. They never stopped looking. Hired private investigators, put up flyers, spent everything. My throat tightened. What happened to them? They died 6 months after you disappeared. Car accident. They were driving home from meeting with another investigator. For a moment I couldn't breathe. They died looking for me? He nodded. They never gave up, Ezra. Neither did I. I stared at the floor, the old wood blurring under my eyes. Guilt and grief, emotions I hadn't earned and yet couldn't escape, rolled over me in waves. I didn't even know they existed, I whispered. I know, Logan said softly. You couldn't have. He pulled open another drawer and handed me a folded newspaper. The headline read, Unidentified teen found after highway accident. My breath caught. The article described a 17-year-old male, found unconscious 50 miles outside the city. No identification, severe head injury, condition stable. That's you, or we think it is. I scanned the page, my eyes snagging on a single detail, the hospital name. I'd seen it before. Printed on the corner of old discharge papers I kept in a box under the passenger seat of my cab. That's where I woke up, I said slowly. That's where I started. He nodded. The timelines match. The police just never connected it. Different counties, different departments, and when Mom and Dad died, the trail went cold. I sank into the nearest chair, my heart hammering. So all this time you were looking for me, and I was right there, alive, a few miles away. Yeah, he said quietly, and no one knew. I rubbed my temples. What kind of world loses a person like that? The kind that moves too fast, the kind that doesn't look twice. He was quiet for a moment, then stood and pulled a folder from the bottom drawer. There's one more thing. Inside was a photocopy of a medical record. He pointed to a line highlighted in yellow. Patient has distinctive crescent-shaped scar on left shoulder blade. Do you have it? My hand moved before I could think, reaching over my shoulder to the small moon-shaped mark I'd carried all my life. Yes, I whispered. He exhaled, his eyes glistening. You got that when you were 3. Fell off your bike. Mom said it looked like the moon. I looked up at him, and the room seemed to tilt. So this really is real. Logan stepped forward, voice breaking. It's you, Ezra. It's always been you. He pulled me into a hug. For a heartbeat, I stood frozen, strangers in a borrowed memory. Then something inside me gave way. I held on. For the first time in 25 years, someone was holding me like they knew who I was. That night, lying in the hotel bed again, I stared at the ceiling and tried to piece together a life from the fragments Logan had given me. Parents who never stopped searching, a brother who'd carried my ghost through adulthood, a home I'd forgotten. Somewhere out there, a younger version of me was walking away from a house, angry about something trivial, not knowing that the next few miles would erase everything. Tomorrow, I thought, I'll start over. But for the first time, I wasn't starting from nothing.
3 days later, the DNA results came back. The clinic called us in person instead of emailing. That should have been my first clue. I remember sitting in the sterile office, white walls, faint hum of fluorescent lights, with my palms sweating against the paper form on my lap. Logan sat beside me, his knee bouncing like a drumbeat he couldn't turn off. The doctor entered holding a single envelope. "Mr. Westfield?" she said, looking from one of us to the other. "The results confirm a full sibling relationship. Probability 99.97%. I didn't hear anything after that. Just a sharp, collapsing silence. My throat closed up. Logan's chair scraped against the tile as he stood and pulled me into a hug. "I told you," he whispered, voice breaking. "I told you I'd find you." I didn't know how to cry anymore, but something cracked open inside me. For 25 years, I had been a man with no story. Now I had one, and it was too heavy and too beautiful to hold all at once. We drove back in silence, the city blurred by, a smear of gray and glass. I stared out the window, watching people on the sidewalks, mothers with strollers, a couple holding coffee cups, a man in a suit talking into his earpods, and thought how easy it is to vanish between all that noise. When we reached Logan's apartment, he didn't speak. He just went to the filing cabinet and pulled out a folder marked Investigators. "I hired someone new last week," he said finally. "A retired detective, Riley. She's good at cold cases. I thought maybe she could help us figure out what really happened." "What really happened?" I echoed. He met my eyes. "You didn't just vanish, Ezra. Somebody caused that accident. I need to know who." Detective Riley looked like the kind of woman who'd seen more lies than most people see sunsets. Sharp gray eyes, cropped hair, a leather notebook that she filled without looking down. We met in her office, rain drumming against the window. She spoke in a measured tone of someone used to delivering bad news gently. "I found your driver," she said. "Driver?" I frowned. "The man who picked you up the night you disappeared." She flipped open her notes. "His name was Carl Brennan. He died 3 years ago, but before he passed, he confessed to his son." I felt my stomach tighten. Confessed to what? She met my eyes. "To causing your accident. Brennan was drunk that night. He saw you walking in the rain, offered you a ride. About 20 miles down the highway, he lost control. The car rolled twice. He was thrown clear. You weren't." I could hear the rain hammering harder now. "He panicked," she continued quietly. "Drove home, reported his car stolen the next morning." My mouth dried. "He left me there?" "Yes." "For dead?" Her silence was answer enough. Logan's hands were clenched on his knees, white-knuckled. "He left my brother bleeding on the side of the road," he said, his voice shaking. Riley nodded once. "By the time another motorist found him, the damage was done. Severe head trauma, memory loss, different county, different jurisdiction. Your parents' investigators never saw the hospital reports." I leaned back in my chair, the world tilting like it was trying to throw me off. "So it wasn't a kidnapping," I said slowly. "Not a runaway." "Just a drunk driver who didn't want to go to jail," Riley said. He carried the guilt his whole life, told his son everything on his deathbed. The son confirmed the details, location, night, even the color of the car. It all matches. I stared at the floor, the truth settling in like cold water. After 25 years of wondering, that was it? One bad decision, one coward? Logan exhaled shakily. We're pressing charges? Brennan is dead, but his insurance company may be liable for damages. The accident was never reported correctly. It's your call. Not for the money, for acknowledgement, Logan said. Closure matters. Riley nodded. We left her office in silence. The rain had stopped, but the streets still shone like mirrors. Logan pulled into a park, one I apparently used to play in as a kid. I didn't remember it, but I could imagine it. How do you feel? He asked finally. I thought about it. I said, empty, honestly. I thought finding the truth would fix something, but all it did was show me how random it all was. A drunk driver, a wrong turn, and a life erased. He nodded. It's not fair. No, but it's real. We sat there for a long time, watching a group of kids play soccer in the wet grass. Their laughter carried across the field, bright and reckless, like the world had never taken anything from them. Logan? Yeah? What if I never remember? What if all of this just stays words and pictures? He looked at me, his voice firm. Then we make new memories. You're my brother whether you remember or not. That doesn't change.
I turned to him, throat tight. You spent half your life searching for a ghost, and you found me like this. What if I'm not who you remember? Then you're who I have now, he said simply. And that's enough. That night in the hotel room, I lay awake, listening to the rain against the window. My mind kept circling the same thoughts. A 17-year-old boy walking along a dark highway, a stranger pulling over, a car spinning through the night. And somehow, through all that loss, through fear, guilt, time, and silence, life had found a way to bring me back. Not to the past, but to something new. Tomorrow, I thought, I'll start again. Not as John Doe, not as Ezra, the taxi driver. As Ezra Westfield, the brother who was found. 6 months later, I was standing in a small family restaurant, halfway between Logan's apartment and my ex-wife's house, holding 2 chocolate milkshakes and trying not to shake myself. Jessica's car pulled into the parking lot. I recognized it instantly. The same gray sedan I used to change the oil on every other weekend, back when life was steady and boring and beautiful. The doors opened, and my kids tumbled out. Ella first, all bright curls and sunshine energy, shouting, "Daddy!" like the words still belonged to me. Then Ricky, slower, holding something in his small, careful hands. He stopped short when he saw Logan standing beside me. "Who's that man?" I knelt down. "Buddy," I said gently, "this is someone special. This is your Uncle Logan." Ella's eyes went wide. "We have an uncle?" Logan crouched to meet their gaze, his voice warm but shaking. "You do now. I've been waiting a long time to meet you both." Ricky opened his palm, a handful of smooth stones. "I collect rocks. This one looks like a heart." Logan studied the stones seriously. "You know, I used to collect rocks too. Still have some of them." "Really?" "Really. Maybe next time I'll show you." Jessica smiled softly, watching them. For a moment, the years of anger and exhaustion between us faded.
She looked at me and said quietly, "He seems wonderful." "He is, and he's family." That night, after dinner and milkshakes and laughter I hadn't heard in years, I walked Jessica to her car. "I know this is a lot," I said carefully. "Logan wants to help, with the kids, with everything." She nodded. "I can see that. They need this, Ezra. They need you. I want to be there for them, not just visits. I want to build something stable again." Jessica's eyes softened. "You don't need to convince me. I kept them away because I didn't want them to see you falling apart. But now—" She glanced over at Logan, giving Ella a piggyback ride under the restaurant lights. "Now maybe they can see you standing again." I swallowed hard. "We'll never be what we were." "No, but we can be what they need." A month later, I signed the lease on a small apartment. Nothing fancy, but clean, warm, and mine. My name, my signature, my key. Every Saturday morning, Logan came over with coffee and bagels. It became our ritual. We'd talk, laugh, argue about nothing important. Slowly, piece by piece, we built the rhythm of brothers again. The memories didn't rush back like I'd hoped. They came in whispers instead. The smell of sawdust that reminded me of Dad's workshop. A flash of a dog running through snow. A woman's voice singing while baking. Mom used to sing when she cooked. Chocolate cake, always chocolate. "I can almost hear it," I said. "That's memory. Not gone. Just waiting."
When the civil case against Carl Brennan's estate finally closed, Logan and I sat in the lawyer's office, signing the last of the documents. The settlement wasn't about money. It was acknowledgement, as Logan said, a record that the boy who vanished on a rainy night hadn't disappeared by choice. Part of the payment went to cover old medical expenses. The rest was mine to start over. "What are you going to do now?" Logan asked as we stepped outside into the spring air. "I've been thinking," I said slowly. "I want to go back to school, finish my GED, maybe study counseling or social work. I met a lot of people when I was homeless, people who slipped through the cracks. I want to help them find their way back too." Logan smiled. "You'd be good at that. I think I'd be me at that." A few weeks later, I drove my old taxi, still beat up, still loyal, to the cemetery where our parents were buried. Logan had taken me there the first time, but today I went alone. I sat cross-legged on the grass, a gentle breeze carrying the smell of wet earth and early summer flowers. "I got my GED book," I told them quietly. "Planning to take the test in a few months. Logan's still trying to teach me how to make mom's spaghetti, but I think mine tastes more like regret than sauce." A soft laugh escaped me. "You'd like him. You'd be proud of him. He never stopped looking. Even when the world told him to move on, he didn't. I wouldn't be here without him." The wind moved through the trees, whispering like someone humming in another room. "I wish I could remember you better, but Logan's stories help. Every time he talks about you, it feels less like I lost you and more like I'm finding you again." When I got home that evening, my phone buzzed. A text from Logan. "Dinner tomorrow? I'm making mom's spaghetti. Fair warning, still not as good as hers." I smiled, typing back, "I'll bring dessert." He replied instantly, "Thanks for coming back." I stood by my apartment window for a long time, watching the city lights shimmer against the dark. Once those lights used to make me feel small, invisible. Now they felt like a map, not of roads, but of connections. Every glowing window held a story, and somehow, after being lost for 25 years, I had found my way back into mine. The man sleeping in his taxi was gone. In his place stood Ezra Westfield, a man with a name, a brother, and a future. Sometimes the hardest journeys don't lead you somewhere new. They bring you home.